You are listening to an exclusive on Pod Hub Network. Your city, your podcast.
To the delight of this crowd, McClendon marches down the dugout steps with first base. McCutcheon's throw. The runner breaks to the plate. Here's the throw. Wow. He is out. The Buccos win. That ball's hit well to left center field. Back toward the track. And that ball is gone.
You are listening to the North Shore 9 podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, make sure to watch NS9 Live every Thursday on Twitch and help support by becoming a patron. Let's go Bucks!
Welcome to the North Shore 9 podcast, everybody. I am your host today. Anthony DiNardo is on his anniversary, celebrating his anniversary. So it's me, Jim Rosati. With me is Tyler, a.k.a. Wagner to Hopeless. How are you doing, Tyler?
Living the dream now. We got a better guest, so thankfully DiNardo's not here. We're all good.
Yeah, definitely an upgrade from DiNardo. So there's been a lot happening in baseball today, so I'm pretty excited to introduce our guest today. A lot of you guys know him. He was on the Pirates beat what seems like a lifetime ago, really. But since then, he wrote Big Data Baseball, wrote MVP Machine. He's now working for The Score as an MLB writer there. Travis Sawchik, welcome to the podcast. Nice to have you on.
Yeah, great to be with you guys and to be back in the Pittsburgh media world. So it's nostalgic, really.
Yeah,
I mean, it hasn't been too long, but so much has changed in baseball. And since I was on the beat, or really when I was on the beat, it started from the data avalanche to two different to the Astros sign stealing scandal to all sorts of crazy things that happened. Player development changes, Chris Archer trade, lots of crazy things have happened. So it's good to be back with you.
Yeah, lots of stuff. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, what was cool, I mean, you were the beat writer back when we were good. And it probably wouldn't be as fun now. Or maybe it would be fun. I don't even know.
Yeah, it was weird coming on the beat then, because I had no experience with Pittsburgh baseball culture or the fan experience, and just I understandably people were pretty jaded and was slow to embrace some of this, but then it was really cool to see it all culminate with that playoff appearance and that wild card game in 2013. I've still never heard a baseball stadium that loud as PNC Park was that night, so that was a cool experience.
You can still count on writing an article about nutting selling the team and getting clicked. So that not much has changed there.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've been around small market baseball my whole life, so I understand those frustration for sure. And that could be a whole different episode. But a lot has changed, and some things have remained the same, I guess is one way to put it.
Yeah, a lot of things have happened. One of the things, obviously, that I asked you to come on board the show to talk about was 2 weeks ago. You published an article. And it was pretty interesting because, we've been hearing about this whole, sticky situation going on with baseball. It's really culminating and it's really exploded these past few weks. But you had a pretty cool article where you went and, you actually tested out some of this stuff. So kind of just talk to me about that whole experience. Like, what was that like? What are some things that you learned? I mean, I'm sure that had to be pretty fun, but at the same time, kind of like eye-opening to like what these things could do.
Yeah, so I think the article was out 2 weeks ago. The same day the owners met and were presented with evidence of what baseball had found the first 2 months of the season, what players were using, how much effect it had. So, and a lot has changed since then. But I think most serious baseball fans had heard. Trevor Bauer blow the whistle a few years ago about sticky stuff, and people were aware of the pitchers were using foreign substance and that maybe it was playing a role in strikeout rate. So all that was, somewhat known. And I mean, pitchers have always been using foreign substances, so that wasn't like a new idea. But in talking with the editors about this, our idea was, okay, well, let's go. Part of my thought process is, well, yes, this has always been going on, but I feel like pitchers are weaponizing it today because they can go, every team has spin tracking data in their bullpens, all the private facilities out there pitchers train at, in addition to the StatCast on-field tracking. So pitchers can, before 2015, pitchers were guessing when they were using stuff. And is this really helping me? I think it might be, but I don't really know. Well, since 2015, since StatCast, since Rapsodo, pitchers know for sure, if they want to know, how much spin helps their performance, what certain stuff does to their spin. So it feels like this is a whole different level, and they can experiment with anything and try it out. And some pitchers were. So I didn't think, I mean, some people had experimented to some degree. I mean, even in the MVP machine I wrote with Ben Lindbergh, I had a guy at Driveline experiment with a few different things, but we wanted to like go through the menu of what pitchers were using, common things, and see, okay, what is the difference? And are there really big jumps between, say, rosin and sunscreen and Spider Tack, which has become no one was talking about Spider Tack a few weeks ago. Now everyone's talking about Spider Tack. So what was the difference? So
yeah.
I made the Amazon order, and we got as much stuff as we could, as quickly as we could. And I went to Performance Velocity Systems in the South Hills there. I was looking for a place with a Rapsodo unit in Cleveland, so I wouldn't have to travel as far, but I couldn't find one. So I went I went to my old stomping grounds, and the results are eye-opening. Even someone, I mean, I'm not really a pitcher. Very loosely, I could be considered an amateur pitcher, very loosely. But even me, sitting at 56 to 59 miles an hour, dabbing, putting just a little Spider Tack on my hand, I was seeing a 20% spin bump. I went from 1440 RPM to the low 1800s just from Spider Tack. And that was a huge difference from sunscreen and rosin, or rosin alone. And it's like, when you look at what that kind of bump does at the major league level to strikeout rates and swing and miss rates, it's eye-opening and it's jarring. And that's so easy. I mean, these guys are velocities increase so much. The breaking designed, pitch design breaking balls are so good now. You add in kind of a more scientific approach to using illegal substances, and it's just I think it is playing a huge role, at least a role, in the strikeout rate, the record of batting averages, and in a way we set out to kind of prove that, and I think we had some effect in opening some eyes, and it was just fun to go through the process too. And we really, for anyone who teaches a high school physics class or middle school physics class, we gave you a layup lesson one day. Go teach Magnus effect and use our experiment. So that's kind of like, in a rambling way, to answer your question, that's sort of how it came about and what we were trying to accomplish. And it's been, I mean, we just were fortunate with the timing that baseball kind of met and had this decision then too, is kind of grabbed a lot of people were really interested in the subject. So we got lucky with the timing, but it's going to be crazy to see this play out. And it's been interesting.
First off, we're not going to gloss over the fact that you didn't crack 60.
Yeah.
You can't say sad. You sat 56 to 59. You didn't crack 60.
My average was 56. My peak was like 59.1.
And you cheated to get there.
And I cheated. I might have got some velocity. It'll be interesting to see if velocity goes down too once the crackdown really takes place, because maybe it does add some velo too. But it is. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. But I'll tell you what, I bet most people think they can sit 70. I don't think so. I mean, if you sat 70, you're probably a pitcher on your high school team. I would say. I am a pathetic thrower of the baseball, but it does give you a new appreciation for guys sitting 95. Like, that is almost double what I am doing here. And it is embarrassing. So
there's a reason
you had to put I had to put my ego on the side to pull this off and to conduct that experiment.
there's a reason you write about it and I sell insurance and Jim does whatever he does. But in all seriousness, I had never heard of Spider Tack before, really, all of this. And if you told me before about the foreign substances, I think I would just assume you were talking about pine tar or sunscreen or rosin. So I guess at this point, it seems like it might be a little overblown on how many guys are using Spider Tack because everyone thinks everyone's using it. So how prevalent do you find it now?
Yeah, it'd be great to have like an anonymous survey done. Maybe the athletic beat writers could pull that together and publish it or something. But I mean, I think the majority of pitchers are using, the sunscreen rosin, probably some pine tar combo. Spider Tack was, I think in recent years, it made its way through baseball. I don't know. I can't give you a good answer on how many guys are using it. And there's all sorts of other concoctions. I mean, Pelican Dip Grip, I think it's called, is similar. I know Driveline has been experimenting with that for years. Firm Grip, maybe a little more common for batters to use that. It's kind of it's like an aerosol pine tar that's more stickier than the bag of pine tar. But I know pitchers have used that too. So yeah, I would think I would put Spider Tack is in that Pelican and then designer substances for guys who are either going to chemists or have created their own concoctions. I think that is a separate tier. And the curious high-end cheaters have been using that. And I think if you go around and just look at the guys who have curious 300-400 RPM spin jumps on their fastballs, those are probably the guys who have been using this stuff. Unless you're using it before 2015, you kind of grandfathered in, so we can't pick up on what you were doing. So I mean, I know baseball's using the blanket. Everything's banned except rosin, but I almost think there should be tiers. Like I think sunscreen is going to be too hard to police. I mean, sweat plus rosin creates a different effect. So I think some of that stuff should be okayed. I think the stuff that is really affecting performance is the Spider Tack family, I'll call it. And I can't give you a percentage, but I think it's climbing, and I think it would continue to climb unless baseball put its foot down. And I'm sure we'll get into the timing of this and other things, but yeah, I do think there are different levels of sticky stuff and different levels of performance effect.
So let's kind of go into that a little bit. We talked about, okay, so now all these players, all pitchers are probably using something, right? There's a select few, and it's a growing number who are using this extra sticky stuff, right? It's now but it's contributed to this issue that we're seeing now, where baseball has this problem where not enough balls are being put in play, right? And that's affecting a lot of things. So now baseball goes, they had this owners meeting. They released this memo. What was it? A week ago or so. Everything's banned, right? There's going to be, every pitcher is going to be checked every game, but if you get caught, 10-game suspension. So we've heard a lot of backlash with that. Going to kind of our old buddies, Garrett Cole, we saw his less than articulate response to the question, have you ever used this stuff? He just, it was like the weirdest way to say yes, but without actually saying yes. So he's not really happy about it. Tyler Glasnow goes down, partially tears his UCL, going to try to avoid Tommy John surgery, but then Glasnow just goes off basically on Major League Baseball and says, I can't believe you're making this change in the middle of a season. It's gonna cause injury. Like he's saying that's what contributed to my injury. So a lot of discourse now. I guess, what are your thoughts on MLB's response? First off, like was this response the right response? What do you think? You mentioned maybe certain tiers. What do you think the best way to kind of settle this is?
Yeah, I have mixed, I guess, opinions about it. I think I do think the middle of the season change is. I'm sensitive to the pitchers' concerns about that and not loving it. It seems, even though there was, I think Major League Baseball would say, "Well, we put out the March memo. We said we're going to take this more seriously. You guys didn't change anything. We warned you again 2 weeks ago, and we're doing it." So I think Major League Baseball would say, "Hey, we told you in March," but the players would say, "Well, we didn't think." It was our understanding this wasn't going to happen this year as far as enforcement goes. So I do think the timing is tough, and you would hate to see injuries. So if there's a huge injury rise, and even though it'd be tough to ever know for sure whether this caused a UCL tear or something like that, if we saw a big injury spike, that'd be really unfortunate, and no one wants that. So those are. And I do think sunscreen should be okayed, because when we experimented with it, and it's possible, me and the college arms I threw with, we didn't have the right ratio, or we weren't mixing it correctly or something, but it actually hurt our performance a little bit. We just were better with rosin. So I would like to see results of a pro try that, who has a lot of experience. I couldn't get one of those guys to go on the record with it. So I think there should maybe be tiers where sunscreen's okay. But as far as the big picture, long-term thing, I think it is the right decision, because baseball is on this. Every year we're seeing strikeout rates go up, and look at on June 3rd, Major League batting average was 236, which is crazy. I mean, even as recently as 2017, it was in the 250s. So you're seeing this every year, unstoppable march, more strikeouts, lower batting average. And this really wasn't how baseball is meant to be played. It's not the sport that became popular. And you can think about kids trying to watch this. Nothing happens. An occasional home run between strikeouts and walks, nothing is happening. Imagine a little league situation where it's a 30% strikeout rate and balls are never in play. It'd be super boring. Everybody would be kicking dirt and picking dandelions in the outfield. It's just not that interesting of a game for the wider part of the audience. I think there's a certain component, a certain cohort of baseball fans that will love the game, no matter how it's played, and maybe some are even okay with it becoming something of a kind of a scientific experiment that it seems, or sabermetric experiment. But if you're trying to reach a mass audience, which is what baseball is trying to do, and make the product a little more interesting and allow your athletes to do more athletic things, whether it's running the bases or making great defensive plays, you need more balls in play. So I do think it's the right long-term decision. And now there's the ball tracking that's allowed them to realize how big of a problem this is. And I mean, the policing is going to be another problem because I don't think Joe West has been properly trained in how to kind of evaluate, is this hand look legal or not?
Was it you that tweeted about him sniffing a hand?
I did tweet that. I said I think I wrote I was looking forward to Joe West policing this and using all the senses or something along those lines. And I know a lot of media people have been bitching about, Major League Baseball. I mean, Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred have been getting dunked on all week, and I think it's fair to be cynical about Major League Baseball. But I mean, secretly, every writer is loving this, I think, because June 21st is going to give them all sorts of drama to write about and things to follow and fill up notebooks. And everyone will be watching June 21st. So I think, if you gave everybody truth serum, everyone will be watching and enjoying the whatever's going to happen on June 21st. But I guess long answer short, there's going to be all sorts of short-term problems. And I think the timing was probably poor. And if there's injuries associated with this, it'd be really bad. But long term, I think it's the right call. It's better than moving the mound back to 62 feet. And you got to have more balls in play. I think that is a huge, even if it has short-term effects on players, you think about growing the game long term, getting more young people interested in playing it, and down the road becoming paying customers, it's the right decision.
So I'll agree with you, especially on the timing part, though. And a lot of the things that's not really mentioned is we're coming off a season that's very shortened, and I think we were already looking at injuries going up.
Yeah.
So doing anything that's going to make these guys make an adjustment. This year is maybe the worst year they could have ever done anything. And they just said, screw it, in the middle of the year. You know what? Let's do it.
Yeah, that's the part that gets me. And I think, even as Trevor Bauer told me for a recent piece, he would have made some changes to what they're trying to do, but he would have liked this a lot more had they begun it at the start of next season, or say any opening day rather than mid-season. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that part of this is unfair, I think. And yeah, if there's more injuries, that'd be terrible, because you don't want to see guys' careers affected by this, certainly. So yeah, I totally sympathize with that. And I think baseball could have handled it better. I was trying to think, is there some logical reason they did this in the middle of a season?
Truthfully, I can't think of one.
The only thing I thought of, and I don't know that maybe they just wanted the same players with the same 2021 ball to get a sense of how much of an impact it's had, to like have the same, you have the control group, which was before June 21st, and you'll have the control group, see what the results after. But I don't think they thought of it that in those terms. It would have made so much more sense to give players a warning at the end of last year when everyone knew this was an issue, and say, hey, opening day, we're going to enforce it, and there's going to be these suspensions. So yeah, the timing is the curious part and deserves criticism for sure.
Yeah, I look back probably 5 years or so where MLB is on a new skin cancer awareness thing. And now they're trying to ban sunscreen, basically. You can't use it at night. Preferably don't use it in the dome. What is going through their minds?
Yeah. I think they're trying to make
I'm asking you like but you don't know. But,
I don't. I think they're just trying to make the job a little easier for umpires. Like, hey, don't worry about differentiating between stuff. If it's not just rosin, and I don't know how they're going to know if it's just rosin and not rosin and sweat or whatnot. I think they're trying to make life a little easier for umpires. But and reading the memo, it seemed like they're okay with pitchers using sunscreen in day games. Just don't go to your forearm between every pitch. But still, when they check the pitchers, are they going to? There's probably going to be sunscreen on their person, and if it's humid and sunny out, it's you can't just keep sunscreen controlled to every area of your body except your fingertips. So I don't think they thought sunscreen out well enough. And I asked Major League Baseball, have you guys conducted your own experiment to see, are there thresholds? I never got a response back on that. So I don't even know if I know they did collect a lot of game balls, and they conducted interviews with players and front office people and whatnot. So they did do some due diligence, but I think they should have investigated I think there should be tiers. I think sunscreen should be okay. So unless it's just like so abused, blatantly abused. So yeah, I think the execution could have been better.
Yeah, I think you've just spoke on it. Spider Tack, yeah, not okay. Pine tar, I think, is kind of in the middle. But why can't they just go with one thing? This is what we're going to do. That's all you're allowed to do. I feel like that would have made this a lot simpler.
Yeah, especially for this season, because a lot of guys don't. My understanding is there's a tier of pitchers. Almost every pitcher has used sunscreen and rosin, or many of them, and I don't know that the performance effect is that great. So I think you should have let that continue this year, and then maybe look into it more in the off season and determine whether that's okay or not going into next year. Just maybe focus on the Spider Tack and the stuff that jumps RPM 300, 400, 500, 500 units. I mean, if someone had asked me for Major League Baseball, that's what I would have advised, but no one did. And and here we are with one of the wildest midseason policing efforts that has probably ever happened. There's never been anything like this. So it's going to be really interesting to see.
I think we're going to see a lot of lying of pitchers that say they only use sunscreen and rosin, because that seems to be the most universally okay thing.
Yeah, I think we're already seeing that to some extent.
Yeah.
And we're seeing concerns about, I was worried about batter safety, which I don't think guys want to hit batters and hurt people, but I don't think that was the incentive to use Spider Tack. And And I also don't think there's any evidence that it's actually walk rate is down since June 3rd, as we've seen spin drop, and it seems like there's been some deterrent effect already. Batters have hit 247 since June 3rd. They were, they were hitting 236 on the season. So, I mean, that's the power of this, I think. I mean, maybe that's small sample noise, but I also think there's something to it. Strikeouts are down a little over 1 percentage point. I think we already saw some immediate effect. And if baseball could add 15 to 20 points of batting average just by enforcing the rule book, I think that's good for the game long term, without doing anything more radical. I think that it's perfectly within their rights to enforce their own rules. I just think the timing's weird. But I'm seeing pitchers make all these creative, I only use sunscreen, or I don't want to hit batters. I don't, that's not why I use Spider Tack. It just isn't. No, I can't grip the ball without Spider Tack. That's just not true. I mean, in the lab, just using rosin, we got 150 RPM bump. And rosin is essentially pine sap. That's been refined and put in powder form. It's pretty significant grip enhancer. I don't think you need more than that to grip a baseball. And I was just looking at fastball zone percentage for four seamers, and in 2 weeks before the June 3rd owners meeting memo, it was like 54.5% of fastballs were thrown within the strike zone, and since then it's been 54.1%. So with that and walk rate and hit batters really hasn't changed. I don't think we're seeing command issue fears. The injury one is the one, I think. But I don't even know that we will be able to draw any conclusions. I don't think there's any peer-reviewed papers on what Spider Tack does if you stop using it. That it's a total unknown, and that's a scary one.
Yeah, I think that's the last thing we want to see come out of this is injuries. But I think you hit the nail on the head. If baseball can basically just enforce the rules and fix this batting average issue that we've got, I think that could drastically change the game, at least the viewing experience.
Yeah, why didn't they do this in the off season? We all knew they've known the issue since 2018, since Trevor Bauer blew the whistle on the Astros and Garrett Cole, basically. And public awareness and the data has only increased since then. But baseball's known this is an issue for a while, and I mean, I was emailing the commissioner's office back in 2018 asking if they were looking at this, and so it's not like they weren't aware of it. I think they were just a little slow. Baseball's slow to get out ahead of problems, whether it's steroids, Astros stuff. It'd be nice to see them be a little more proactive and less reactive. But if on the other side, they're acting more quickly than they did in the steroid era, in part because the data is there from StatCast, and it's a little easier to tell that this is a problem and quantify it. So still slow, but not as slow. It also bothers me that no Astros players got suspensions, but you're going to that enforcement. I don't know. There are other problems with it, but if batting average can get up in the 250 range because of this, long term, that's a good thing.
So before we kind of wrap things up here, quick question: did sticky stuff help play a role in Neal Huntington getting fired?
Oh man!
I mean, if you look at like Garrett Cole being a totally different pitcher when he left, Tyler Glasnow being a completely different pitcher when he left. Bob Nunning said when he fired Huntington. Now there's a lot of other factors that went into the decision, but he was sick and tired of people leaving Pittsburgh and getting better.
Well, it was the player development changes certainly played a role, and player development has changed so much even since I left Pittsburgh after the 2016 season. That's just when the stuff was when the Astros were really digging into it, and Trevor Bauer was just starting. I mean, he was only been at Driveline a few years then. They were so that stuff changed quickly. And if you didn't get on the front end of it as a team, like the Dodgers did, the Astros did, the Rays did, you were going to be left behind. And I think that's what happened in Pittsburgh. Is the game just changed so quickly, and they were still, as the Ray Search philosophy, which had success in the pre-Statcast years in 2013, 2014, and even 2015. The whole game changed, and it's going to be interesting because Garrett Cole did make a lot of real changes that had nothing to do with sticky stuff. Where he threw, what he threw. The Astros did get. I think he was going to be an improved player, even assuming, let's say, he never used Spider Tack or whatever he seems to be using. I still think he would have been an improved pitcher. But to your point, I suspect that played a role in his improvement, and perhaps Glass now too. It seemed like these guys learned how to optimize performance and perhaps sticky stuff after losing. So yeah, I think it maybe it played a 2% role. I don't know. It played some role, perhaps. So yeah, it's one of those questions that sounds kind of like, what are you talking about? But then you think about it, and you're like, yeah, maybe it probably had some effect. It's certainly a player development story, and this sticky stuff is now part of that player development story.
Tweeted out, Travis Sawchik says that sticky stuff is why Neal Huntington got fired.
Right, there's the clickbait headline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's so tough. You think about it was such a fascinating period because the Pirates kind of got on the front end of the defensive shifts and pitch framing. Like, it's not like they're a bunch of morons. They were aware. They took advantage of some things that other teams weren't. But the game just evolves and adapts so quickly. And if you're not always asking the right questions and really question yourself, and you can get left behind quickly, and in a way that would have never happened in any other period in baseball. The change, there's been like 50 years worth of change in 5 years, and it's just crazy. And the Pirates are a great test case for some of these things. Like, look what happened when you find the things early. Look what happens when you maybe didn't in player development, and how quickly things change. Imagine thinking at the end of the 2015 season that, by the 2020 season, you'd have a complete regime change. You probably, I don't know, that would have been surprising, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else, Tyler?
No, we know Travis has to run, so.
Yeah, Travis got to go. So before we head out, one last question. DiNardo wanted me to ask you this.
Oh, boy.
You have the North Shore 9 Twitter account blocked. So he wanted to know why.
See, I don't have any blocks. I don't know. Is there like a history there?
I don't know. Like he was like, why am I blocked? Why can't I see his tweets? I was like, it's probably because of your terrible puns. So that's what I thought it was.
You know what? Let's. I don't know why. Or
we don't have to block. Unblock. It's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, the fact that I'm here today says there must be.
Yeah, but DiNardo's not.
DiNardo's not.
No, but thanks a lot for joining us. Really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, go ahead, plug your Twitter. Where can people find you?
Just Travis_Sawchik, I think, is still my Twitter handle. I believe any change had been made. Yeah. And yeah, I go through periods where I tweet a lot and I don't, but I write for The Score now. And yeah, that's where you can catch me.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for hopping on here. Really appreciate it. Hopefully this is going to be a really interesting topic to just kind of watch and see how it unfolds the next year, especially going into the CBA. It's going to be interesting.
Oh yeah, what a mess!
That's a whole
that's
other
a mess.
story.
This whole blocking incident with the North Shore 9 is a mess. Yeah, I don't even remember having like a Twitter squabble. So I don't know what happened.
Yeah. We don't know. We don't know.
Into this, yeah.
All right. That'll be it, guys. Appreciate you all. You can always find us Starbucks Tuesday or Wednesday morning, depending on when we wake up. Thursday nights on S9 Live. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you later.
Scouts.